Well, for more than a year, 12 News investigative reporter Wendy Halloran looked into the Phoenix Fire Department's arson squad. Her findings have nationally recognized arson experts shaking their heads and questioning the squad's claims that it closes more cases than any arson unit in the country. Wendy uncovered victims falsely accused and arrested for arson.
And those arrests were based in large partly on a specially trained dog used to detect fire accelerants. Wendy's report triggered an FBI investigation and a review by City Hall. Conspicuously silent through all of this was Fire Chief Bob Kahn. That is, until now. Wendy joins us now with more. Wendy.
Well, Mark and Lynn Sue, for years, Bob Kahn was the public face of the Phoenix Fire Department. Starting on a fire truck in 1982, he rose through the ranks to become chief in 2006. Now, on the City of Phoenix website, Chief Kahn says his focus for the future of the fire department is on evaluating resources, looking for the best possible way to deliver service. When we sat down and spoke earlier this month, our conversation centered on the arson squad and details he apparently wasn't aware of.
You didn't know anything about this?
No, ma'am.
What Chief Kahn didn't know much about was the department's arson-sniffing dog, a secret weapon, who, according to his handler, never gets it wrong.
Show me. Show me better. Should be a lot more than that, though, huh, Sammy?
You think, wouldn't there?
See? See? No, you gotta put your nose down. At least fake it for me, okay?
Is that appropriate?
No, it's embarrassing. That he used that phrase is embarrassing, I think, for all of us. It is for myself.
Captain Fred Andes is the dog's handler. Last year, he was awarded Arson Investigator of the Year from the Phoenix Fire Department. In the video you just saw, Barbara Sloan, the woman whose house burned down, ended up being arrested and charged with arson. After 2 years and $300,000 of her money, her case was dismissed by the Maricopa County Attorney in the interests of justice.
I lost almost everything because of it.
Prosecutors reviewing Sloan's case concluded lead investigator Captain Sam Richardson, who shot the video of Captain Andes and the dog, was an inexperienced fire investigator. Richardson would admit he arrested Sloan solely because she was the homeowner. He had no evidence tying her to the fire.
Barbara, she came to you and told you nothing but lies.
He didn't want to look at the truth.
Is that acceptable?
I would say, well, I haven't received a complaint other than that document on Sam. I would agree that he was inexperienced going into this case.
Richardson's colleagues, independent arson investigators, and nationally renowned fire experts said Richardson's conclusions were all speculative. The fire started in the fuse box in the car parked in the garage. There was no arson.
That's news to me.
I believe she's far superior to what the labs can do.
Both Andes and Richardson have testified before grand juries and in civil depositions to the veracity of the arson dog's abilities.
Even though 2 crime labs came back and said there were no accelerants present, you still believe your dog. Is that right?
That's right.
And you're aware that the lab was not able to conclude that there were accelerants in those areas?
That doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay, why not?
Because I've seen that dog prove the lab wrong to the lab itself.
Yet your Captain Richardson tells the attorneys in that particular case that the dog proved the lab wrong to the lab itself. How does a dog prove the lab wrong?
I think that would be in conflict with 921.
921 is the guidebook, the Bible for fire investigators. It is published by the National Fire Protection Association. It says any alerts from a dog must be confirmed by a lab before being considered valid. That has not been the standard practice with the Phoenix Arson Squad.
The dog is way better than the lab. And we proved it wrong. I'll believe the dog 100% of the time.
I don't know that he has experience with canines. I don't have an answer for that.
The Canine Accelerant Detection Association says canine handlers should never testify in criminal or civil court to the presence of an ignitable liquid without having received confirmation through laboratory analysis.
But from what I know about arson investigation, if a dog gets a hit, it needs to be confirmed by a lab report.
My investigations found 4 cases where people were falsely accused of arson. One man spent 15 months in jail awaiting trial because the charges were finally dropped. Chief Kahn didn't know why the cases were dismissed, but Jack Ballantyne did. He is the director of the arson unit and the state fire marshal. Ballantyne answers to Kahn.
Your director of your fire investigations unit, Jack Ballantyne, knew all about this. He knew all about this. Why didn't he bring it to your attention then?
I'm not sure.
Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, well, I'll have to ask some questions, absolutely.
Tonight, we have a follow-up to a 12 News investigation that led to a criminal investigation of 2 members of the Phoenix arson squad. And tonight, felony charges are recommended against both of them. One for lying to a grand jury that wound up indicting innocent people. The other for lying under oath. Investigative reporter Wendy Halloran broke this story more than a year ago. And now this case is sitting before the county attorney. Wendy?
Well, Mark, for victims Barbara Sloan and Carl Caples, justice may finally be at hand. Sloan's home burned down and she lost $300,000 defending herself. Caples spent 15 months in jail, both charged with arson. Both would see the charges against them dismissed in the interests of justice. But it would take several years before the arson squad members who accused them are being held accountable.
This is a first good step in the right direction.
The DPS investigation is recommending Captain Sam Richardson be charged with 6 felonies and the handler of the accelerant detection dog, Captain Fred Andes, be charged with 1. The report focuses mainly on the case of Barbara Sloan. Sloan was a successful businesswoman at the time her house burned down.
There's not a day that doesn't go by, and it's been over 5 years. And I don't understand why the fire department did what they did.
Captain Sam Richardson and Captain Fred Andes are seen here coaxing the arson dog into giving a positive alert to an accelerant while they are inspecting her home.
No, you gotta put your nose down. At least fake it for me, okay?
I worry every day that she is being inappropriately used. I cry every day because of it. It's not right.
When the case went to the grand jury, Captain Richardson testified Sloan lit the fire, barricaded the front door, poured gasoline on an electrical outlet, and disconnected the gas line to a dryer. Richardson also told the grand jury the arson dog is so good at detecting accelerants, stating the dog is 1,000 times better than any machine. None of what Richardson said that day before the grand jury can be substantiated. Patrick Kennedy is a nationally renowned fire investigations expert. He helped write the book fire investigators are supposed to follow.
Do you believe Richardson committed perjury?
No doubt about it. He said things in the grand jury which were untrue, and he must have known they were untrue because he was the source of the true part of the information that he reported elsewhere.
And Captain Andes, who has made similar claims about the dog's abilities.
Is your dog right 50% of the time?
No.
Is she right 30% of the time?
No.
Is she right 90% of the time?
No.
Is she right 10% of the time?
No.
5% of the time?
No.
1% of the time?
No.
You have no idea how right she is, do you?
She's right 100% of the time.
Admitted to DPS investigators, it's not really that good.
I believe my dog is right, and the lab results were coming back inconclusive, so if I were to keep results, it would show that your dog's only right half the time or 60% of the time.
Richardson and Andes both report to Fire Marshal Jack Ballantyne. Ballantyne signed off on the investigations. He has not been implicated in any criminal wrongdoing involving the DPS criminal investigation.
I was proud of Sam then. I'm proud of Sam today.
Ballantyne continues to defend Richardson and Andes at the expense of the county attorney's office.
A lot of what happened in Sam's case was because of the county attorney. The failure to disclose evidence. I don't know if you guys even know that. He is a really nice guy. He's a very smart guy. He's a very competent guy. But he was just overwhelmed and forgot. Forgot to get things disclosed in that timely manner. That was the biggest killer in this case. It wasn't the investigation.
In the decision not to prosecute, county attorney notes reveal the state's case was gutted when Captain Richardson created a great deal of reasonable doubt when he admitted he arrested Sloan solely because she was a homeowner. He had no evidence tying her to the fire. And the prosecutor failed to turn over evidence that would have helped prove Sloan's innocence.
The new acting fire chief has a challenge in front of her, and I hope she steps up to the plate and takes appropriate action.
Bill Montgomery also condemning 2 Phoenix Fire Department arson investigators who were accused of lying under oath. But he declined to bring criminal charges against them today for their work on several cases. Wendy Halloran has been investigating this story for 2 years now and says the decision has the falsely accused fuming mad. Wendy?
Well, Tram, for Barbara Sloan, wrongly accused of arson by these fire investigators, this is not a victory. She wanted accountability. Instead, she says the arson investigators who yielded abusive power over her got away with it thanks to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
We saw such an utter breakdown in basic investigative techniques and procedures.
Barbara Sloan was wrongfully arrested for arson after her home burned down.
A gentleman ran out to the truck, aimed a gun at me, asked me to put my hands up in the air.
A fire later determined to be accidental, starting in the car parked in the garage.
I was scared.
DPS recommended Captains Sam Richardson and Fred Andes be charged with a total of 7 felony counts for false swearing under oath. But today, Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery declined to prosecute them, saying it would be tough to prove. Richardson believes what he was saying was true, and Andes believes his dog is better than science.
She's right 100% of the time.
You know, the statement by Andy is that his dog is better than a scientific instrument, he believes wholeheartedly. There's no objective basis for that.
Doesn't mean they're off the hook.
Not bringing criminal charges obviously did not result in us saying that there was nothing wrong with what happened here.
In a letter to the Phoenix Fire Department, the county attorney's office said the investigation raises numerous concerns about both investigators' competence and credibility. It further states it will decline prosecution of any cases previously investigated by both Captain Richardson and Captain Andes. In addition, it will also decline to rely on any work conducted by any improperly documented canine acceleration detectors prior to this date. It goes on to say these decisions are made in the interest of justice and to prevent any further damage to the Phoenix Fire Department arson investigation program.
They did try to destroy me, and I almost allowed it.
And the new fire chief has a real mess to deal with. 12 News profiled 4 people falsely accused of arson by Phoenix fire investigators. One of them is now suing the city of Phoenix. His life ruined, he says his constitutional rights and his civil rights were violated. Investigative reporter Wendy Halloran broke this story last year. She joins us now with the latest. Wendy?
Well, Lynn Sue, Carl Caples was a former cop who moved to Phoenix to start a new life. Now he lives in Chicago, where he's trying to reclaim his life. Caples spent more than a year in jail, accused of trying to burn down the house he shared with 2 roommates. On the day his trial was set to begin, prosecutors dropped the case because the fire wasn't an arson.
I was greeted by 8 Phoenix police officers with their guns drawn, threw me on the ground, in the process, knocked one of my tooth out.
Carl Caples spent more than 14 months in the Maricopa County Jail awaiting trial after being accused of setting fire to the home he shared with 2 other men.
I spent quite a bit of time sitting in custody and fighting for my freedom.
Pat Andler, an arson expert hired by Caples' defense attorney, concluded the lead arson investigator, Captain Sam Richardson, got it wrong.
The fire was not an arson, but it was a fire of accidental origin that occurred in the attic space as a result of an electrical short.
On the day he was scheduled to go to trial, prosecutors dismissed the case against him.
And I believe once they realized that, okay, we really don't have a case, just dismiss it.
Caples' lawsuit alleges the city failed to hire properly trained investigators, did not provide them with additional training, and allowed them to use discredited investigation techniques. The suit also alleges fire investigators approached investigations with a preconceived idea of whether a fire was arson. In an audio deposition, former arson investigator Captain Sam Richardson said he spoke with 1 firefighter and 1 witness before deciding the fire was an arson.
I asked him, what's going on, what happened? And I said, you know who lit this fire?
Caples had an alibi. One Richardson failed to investigate.
I told him I had the pawn receipt in my wallet. He didn't ask for it. He didn't care.
The lawsuit names former Phoenix Fire Department Chief Bob Kahn, former Fire Marshal Jack Ballantyne, and Captains Sam Richardson, Fred Andes, and Willie Nelson. In a separate report on the fire, Captain Fred Andes said his arson dog alerted to 3 different areas on the back patio. Lab results were inconclusive, but Captain Willie Nelson would tell the grand jury which indicted Caples the dog was more accurate than the lab.
Beyond a nightmare. It's something I wouldn't even wish on my own enemy.